Welcome to the Edge of Greatness podcast.
So moving on, number 4, what do we got?
And it's the big one. This is the one that I think really stumps most people. It's kind of related to the prior one, but here it is. Number 4, it's the fourth choice. No talent required, is defeat fear. Defeat fear. The number of people today who operate from fear or anxiety is staggering. And I'll say this for men, any of the men listening to this podcast, a lot of men are afraid of admitting that they're afraid. And they're twice removed. Women are a lot more open to talking about their fears than men are. But the fact of the matter is we all operate from some degree of fear. Fear is real. Not all fear is bad. So when I say, defeat fear, I'm talking about acknowledge the fear that holds you back and then deal with it effectively. Now, here's why fear is so bad. There's 3 things that fear does. It distorts what we see, it disrupts how we feel, and it limits what we do. That's what fear does. I'll say it again. It distorts what we see. When we're in a fear state, we don't see situations clearly. We don't see ourselves clearly. You find you focus and fixate on what you're afraid of, which means you now have a distorted view. Number 2, it disrupts how you feel. Right? When you're in a state of fear and anxiety, you don't feel optimum. You don't feel confident by definition. And there's all kinds of physiological feelings too, by the way, that are bad. And then number 3, fear limits what we do. Fear says, don't do that. Don't try that. Don't tempt that. And we fear lots of things. We mentioned earlier, we fear looking bad. We fear making a mistake and feeling bad. We fear that we discover that we're not capable. Fear of not belonging. We have fear of all kinds of things. And so what elite performers have to do is learn to recognize when fear happens and then use mental mechanisms to defeat it. I didn't say eliminate it because you can't, you don't even want to, but you can defeat it. And basically fear is mismanagement of your imagination. People have said, false evidence appearing real is an old acronym for what fear stands for. There's some of that, but the point is that if you focus on things that are anxiety inducing and you have negative self-talk about those things, you will feel fear. Don't feed the anxiety with fearful self-talk. And that's the key. You got to master the voice in your head. You got to master the voice in your head. And what courageous people do, and courageous people, by the way, are afraid. Fear is not the absence. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is knowing what you need to do and doing it anyway, despite your fear. So what elite people do, what courageous people do, is they focus on what they need to do. They talk positive to themselves about doing it, and then they go do it. And that's defeating fear. It doesn't eliminate it. It's defeating it. And that's the key for those of you listening to this that suffer from or have anxieties. So this is happening. You feel anxious and afraid. Okay, got it. Now, where's your fear come from? And it didn't come from the situation. It came from how you see the situation and your self-talk about it. For example, I was diagnosed in March of 2020 with stage 4 cancer, which most people who follow me on social, almost everybody who follows me knows that. And so I'm in the middle of I've got terminal cancer. I mean, I hope it's not going to be terminal for a long time, but it's stage 4, which means not curable. And there's all kinds of, and I took, chemo, and I'm on meds all the time. And my physical feelings are, I'm never going to feel great again because of all the meds I got to keep taking. And each successive medication gets a little bit more severe in terms of side effects. And, I'll have to go back to chemo here in a few years, no doubt, as more tumors show up. So be it. Well, here's the key to me. No fear. And when there is, some sense of anxiety, I know what to do. So my focus is on action, and my focus is on productive self-talk. And I'm telling you, the voice in your head is a powerful force. And you either have a disciplined voice or a default voice. The disciplined voice is positive and productive, and it tends to whisper. Mm-hmm. The default voice is negative and counterproductive, and it tends to shout. So what you need to do is diminish this voice and amplify this voice. So I say to myself all the time, best grandpa ever. I want to be there for the grandkids. I want to serve my clients. So I'm having these bouts of physical discomfort and low physical energy because of the medication. My self-talk's immediate, and it's positive, it's productive, and it's energy creating. I just don't frame things in a fearful way. Here's another phrase I say to myself: cancer will determine when I die. It will not decide how I live.
I love that.
And that's, I defeat fear that way.
Yeah.
Now, is it scary to have stage 4 cancer? Holy cow, is it scary? I'm getting scans at the James at Ohio State on January 4. And that's an anxiety-inducing day. You go in, you get scanned, they do 2 or 3 different kinds of scans, and they're looking for tumors, which when you have stage 4 cancer, at some point, tons of tumors are going to show up. So it's not a matter of if you're going to have tumors, it's a matter of when. Well, if I sit around and worry, I couldn't do this podcast with you today. I wouldn't have a great Christmas. I wouldn't be there fully for my wife and my kids and my son-in-law and 2 daughters-in-law, and let alone my 4 grandkids. So when I go up to Columbus on January 3rd and I check in at the James and get my scans done, productive self-talk. Let's do this. If there's tumors, we'll deal with it. If there's no tumors, either way, I'm good.
Yeah.
So defeat fear is massive, but you can't defeat what you don't acknowledge.
That makes me think of a couple other things with fear is, I've heard the forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And I think that positive self-talk is you're going to face everything and rise. You're going to just,
I've heard the first one and not heard the second one. Face everything and rise.
I don't know where I heard that. I think it was from a song, honestly. And I just happened to, or I saw it on a picture on a meme or something. I don't know, but it stuck with me because it makes sense. Because like you said, you can't eliminate the fear. It's going to show up. It's going to present itself, but you can face it and you can rise from it. You can go through it, and then you're stronger on the other side. And I think that's the valuable piece for all this, is that you're going to have moments of fear, but you have 2 choices in that moment. You can forget everything and run, or you can face everything and rise and be stronger for it. Thank you for joining us today on the Edge of Greatness podcast. If you haven't yet, please take a minute now to subscribe and review our show. Join us again next week as we continue to dig deeper into the key components of greatness. The path to greatness is never linear, so remember to keep pursuing greatness no matter what. Keep stretching your abilities, reach for the stars, and fall flat on your face. But remember, no matter what happens, whenever we fall, always get up. Until next time, I'm Charles Schultz, and this was the Edge of Greatness podcast.